Four really big news stories out there. We got a judge declaring President Trump's deployment of National Guard troops to Los Angeles before illegal. And that's coming just as President Trump is saying he's going to send the National Guard to Chicago. So obviously that's going to be a kind of a bit of a big deal there. China just unveiled its nuclear triad yesterday. That makes it really the fourth country to do so. We got the United States attacking a ship on the high seas. The U.S. Navy, not Coast Guard, pulling over a ship and checking it for stuff. No, we just flat out locked onto a civilian ship and blew it out of the water. President Trump actually showing the video footage of it, if you don't believe it. And we have Israel out there floating that they're going to annex the West Bank. You know, a really slow news day. Just kind of World War III. Let's just say some of the countries that are historically okay with Israel are like, no, you're not going to do that. You're not going to do that at all. So we got some big things boiling out there. Let's get into it. Welcome back to the Poplar Report. I'm Steve Poplar. I'm an accountant by trade. I am back at my home office here in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. Been around the world. I do have a video that I promised you guys on Taiwan. I need to actually edit that. I am jet lagged, and so I am hopped up on caffeine and ready to go. I was kind of tracking a bunch of the news as I was traveling, but I haven't slept yet. So anyway, when people are kicking your seat, it's just hard to sleep. It's hard to sleep. All right, so much more important than somebody kicking my seat is 11 people perishing off the coast of Venezuela in the Caribbean after a U.S. Navy ship locked onto the ship and blew it out of the water. Now, we don't know exactly what they used. It's possible they used a smaller caliber type weapon. They're trying to disarm it or disable it or something like that. And maybe it caused a rupture or something like that of fuel inside the boat, and that's what caused it to explode. But yeah, U.S. Navy ship not pulling over a ship, not anything like that, but actually just flat out destroying a ship. Now, we know this because President Trump showed us the video. Now, President Trump is saying a few things here. One, they're narco-terrorists. How does he know that? Well, he's saying that they are members of the Tren de Aragua cartel, which is a terrorist entity, according to the United States. It's also quasi-state-sponsored by Maduro, the president of Venezuela. The non-recognized president of Venezuela by the United States refuses to recognize him, and a whole bunch of other Western powers also refuse to recognize him. They're saying that Maduro basically is a terrorist sponsor of narco stuff. Anyway, so the cartels are basically moving the product that Venezuela is giving them, and then Venezuela is giving them logistical support in order to move the product into the United States. It's a whole thing. Anyway, so the United States Navy has not historically done this type of action. And since this is kind of a law enforcement action, even though it is on the international waters, so therefore that kind of changes things a good bit. So it's not so much United States legalities, it's kind of more like international law. Like, you don't see the Chinese out there just like, I don't like that ship over there, let's just go destroy it with people on board. Where's the due process there? What's to stop the Chinese from doing that to, Vietnamese ships or ships from Japan, just blowing them out of the water because China doesn't like what they're doing? All right. You can probably see where this is headed. Defense Secretary Hegseth said that the I almost said special military operation. He said the military operation, not special, just regular old military operation against the cartels will not end with this destruction of the ship here. So, that's not like why we have our Navy ships there. That's what's going to start happening more now that we have our Navy ships there. So, yeah, well, maybe we're not doing a regime change there in Venezuela, but this is definitely out of the norm. You don't see other countries doing this, and other countries are probably going to have a problem with this. A lot of the Caribbean countries are probably not going to like the United States just blowing ships out of the water. Kind of harkens back to the old Pirates of the Caribbean type thing. Now it's the cartels of the Caribbean, but with the U.S. kind of like the British Navy or something. Other news out there at its Victory Day parade. It's 80th anniversary of the United States victory over Japan. Of course, that's not exactly how the Chinese see it. The Chinese seem to be under the impression that they did most of the fighting, but most of the people in China who actually did the fighting, they ended up actually on a little island off the coast of China. That was the Republic of China, which is now known as Taiwan, while the communist forces in China basically hid from the Japanese and just built up their military so that after the fighting was over, they could then overthrow the ruling government of China. So it's kind of rich coming from the communists about, look, we defeated the Japanese. And of course, the communists are also scolding Japan about its history of aggression. It's like, yeah, that's kind of rich coming from you guys. Anyway, China at this Victory Day parade had, esteemed democracies like North Korea and Russia, and it was crazy. Also, Modi there too. So we have an interesting group of people and an interesting representation there. But China unveiled its nuclear triad. So basically they demonstrated by rolling things out. Now, of course, they didn't launch anything, so you just kind of have to take their word from that these are operational pieces and not just, pretty missiles and stuff. But nuclear triad, 3 parts, triangle, right? Anyway, C component, which is historically been ballistic missile submarine launched nuclear missiles. Then you have land-based nuclear missiles. These can be silo-based, or they can be like the Russians have a lot of mobile missiles that kind of drive all over the place. And then your air-launched missiles or air-dropped munitions. These nuclear weapons are used by on stealth bombers, or they can be used with missiles that you can then air launch that can go to the target that it's supposed to go to. Now, the nuclear triad is supposed to be basically a deterrent, so it's usually more strategic. And by that, we mean it's not really designed to take out bunkers or troops on the ground or a specific target. Strategic means we don't like that city over there. Let's just destroy the whole city. And so strategic focuses in on just massive destruction as much as possible. So China becomes the 4th country to officially announce and demonstrate its nuclear triad. The United States, of course, Russia, of course, and India have demonstrated a nuclear triad. Other countries have nuclear weapons like Pakistan. You also have, I almost said Israel. We'll get to that back in just a moment. France, and the UK. They have some nuclear weapons, but they don't have like a robust nuclear triad deterrent. Now, Israel is a little bit different because they don't officially have nuclear weapons. They're kind of like everybody knows they have nuclear weapons, but how much, where, why, when would they use them, how did they get them, all those questions are a little fuzzy. Now, Israel very well may have a nuclear triad, land-based. Probably they have some land-based missile systems. They do have some submarines, and they do appear to have ballistic missile capabilities, so that's a go. And then they do have air-launched nuclear missiles. So Israel probably has a nuclear triad, but they haven't officially announced it because they haven't even officially announced that they have nuclear weapons. So, that's how that goes. All right, so that's a big deal out there. Now, Israel also announcing that, or floating the plan, that they are thinking about annexing the West Bank. So you have the Palestinian areas, you have Gaza Strip down by Egypt and on the Mediterranean coast, and then you have the West Bank from Jerusalem all the way to the Jordan River. Now, the West Bank has basically not really been a part of this whole thing recently, and it's just been Gaza, Hamas in Gaza. Now, Israel has announced that they are going to take over all of Gaza, relocate all the people from Gaza to other places. We're hearing things like Sudan being floated as where they're going to be going. That's really not popular in the Middle East at all. And, some people out there floating the G word, genocide. And, there's the question of, are they committing genocide? And if you actually go through the UN documents and you actually look up the definition of genocide, it's not just the eradication of people by making them go to sleep, but also relocating. So mass relocations is also a textbook definition, according to the United Nations, of genocide. So are they doing that? It appears that they are. It appears that they are. Now, just because they're using a word doesn't necessarily mean it's the same thing. I mean, mass relocations of people is different than mass eradication of people. I mean, let's be honest here. Would you rather have somebody say, we're going to eminent domain your house because we need to build a shopping mall where your house is? Oh, wait, that happens in the United States. Anyway, I think we'd say that that's different than the government coming to your house and burying you and your family, right? I mean, that's different. That's a different thing. Anyway, so Israel is saying that because the European Union and these European countries that have historically at least been neutral on Israel, because they're all turning against Israel, Israel's like, well, we were only playing nice with the West Bank in order to keep you guys happy. And if your guys are not going to be happy anyway, we might as well just go into the West Bank and just take it all over. Now, the West Bank is a thing. That's a thing. But the real thing that I think most people are going to perk up at is part of the West Bank is a big chunk of Jerusalem. A big chunk of Jerusalem belongs to the Palestinian West Bank. So if they take over the West Bank, that seems to indicate that they're going to take over all of Jerusalem, including a certain mount there, the Temple Mount, which raises all sorts of interesting prospects, where they might do some archaeological stuff there and rebuild a certain temple, a Jewish temple on those grounds. So a lot of feelings and thoughts swirling around there. The United Arab Emirates, the UAE, has basically said no. That will not happen. You will not take over the West Bank. Now, we haven't heard a strong statement yet from Jordan, but I can imagine that the King of Jordan is kind of twitching a little bit about that because, I mean, who lives in the West Bank? Palestinians, whatever that means. Palestinians are basically Jordanians who happen to live in this area that's called Palestine. These are basically Arab, Jordanian Arabs. These are, just the same kind of people, right? Same families, all that kind of stuff. So Jordan is definitely going to be not really happy about this. United Arab Emirates, which is normally pretty friendly towards towards Israel, has said this is a red line. You can't do this. So we'll see what happens. Saudi Arabia hasn't said anything yet either, but you can just imagine that they probably don't like that idea either. And another big news item out there that's going to be interesting going forward too is a judge has declared that President Trump's deployment of the National Guard to Los Angeles last month, or was it the month before? Time is flying this year. That apparently was illegal. That's what the judge says. And, I think I'm at the point where I'm just like, I don't care what the judges say. I don't care what the judges say anymore because the judges are saying all sorts of stupid stuff. Like absolutely based in reality stuff. They're saying this stuff more and more just because they don't like President Trump. They don't usually have much legal backing for what they're saying. And this judge is basically saying that the National Guard can only be used for posse comitatus, using them for policing civilians only in the state of insurrection. Which, that's not what the law says. Like, if we just get the law out and read it, like, the judge is wrong. But anyway, that's what a judge has said. Now, just 2 days ago, President Trump came out and said, what day is it? Is it Thursday already? It's still Wednesday. My watch says it's Thursday, though, because all the time zone changes. Anyway, Wednesday, so Monday, President Trump came out and said, hey, we're going to go into Chicago. We're going to send the National Guard into Chicago. So now the judge is saying that what he already did in Los Angeles is illegal, but apparently what he did in Washington, D.C. is not illegal or something. Who knows? These judges are just literally just conjuring law out of their rear ends. I mean, it's just getting ridiculous what they're doing. But that's giving ammunition to a whole bunch of people out there saying that President Trump's deployment of National Guard is totally off base. Now, one of the things that we need to put out here is there's a difference between active duty military and even reservists. Reservists and active duty military are legally this over here, okay? National Guard over here is something else. National Guard technically belongs to the states. It's a militia. So they answer to the governor of their state. The reservists answer to the President of the United States. The active duty military salutes and does what the President of the United States says. Now, the National Guard has historically done a whole lot more with civilians in the past, and it's considered to be the more legal, friendly, right way of doing that. Deploying the Marines to go attack civilians in the streets because they're protesting is generally seen to be like that's martial law. President sending National Guard to go open up a school so that people of color can go into that school is generally considered to be kind of legal, right? So President Trump is basically saying, like, we're not going to open up a school for the people of color. We're going to stop them from getting murdered on the streets. which seems kind of be kind of important. All right, friends, let me know what you guys think about those news stories, how much you think they're going to affect us. Thanks so much for watching. If you want to check out another video from this channel, there's one right up here. I'll see you over there, or I'll see you guys later. Steve Poplar of the Poplar Report out.